Hello, this is the Tradesight U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for Thursday, the 23rd of July, 2015, and also Friday, the 24th of July. We don't usually typically do market previews for Fridays as they are generally fairly slow, and most of what we've analyzed for the week has already played out at that point. So this will encompass both Thursday and Friday. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract daily chart. Came near the highs the other day. Once again, couldn't get through. We've rolled over a bit here now on the decline on the Apple and other stocks today. The close was 2110, so we're still, obviously at the high end of this narrow range we've been in for a while, but we really want to get out of this range either way on some volume. And part of the problem was we weren't seeing volume in that move up. It was just gaps from earnings. We talked about the fact that the up move last week actually occurred, and it's even worse on the NASDAQ side. Let's look at that real quick. It actually occurred. You can see the gaps every day as some stock beat earnings, but it occurred while the decliners were leading advancers, actually by a significant amount on a couple of those days. It's what we call a cloak sell-off. The futures heading up, but really the broad market or the more stocks, significantly more stocks heading down. Some of these bigger cap stocks obviously weight very heavily in the futures and in the markets. So today we had the S&P down 5, not a big deal. It did not fill the gap. We'll look at that in a minute. But we had the NDX, NASDAQ 100 down 51 points. Gapped actually lower than that, so it closed up from the open. Actually, market direction was green. Decent part of the morning after the gap down. Here's the stocks. We lost 16, and we've got a lot of stocks in the stocks. Reporting here today after the bell Wednesday, so that probably will cause a gap in the morning in the semis. But notice this is key. We've been looking for something to get moving at least. This is basically, we're right on the lows since last November. This is when the range was established in the market. And even the stocks has kind of made new highs last briefly in May. If you look at this range, we're at the lows. So if something's going to start leading us down, something big like the semis, that could finally be the thing that shakes us free. Obviously, the biotechs much closer to highs, even though they lost 10 points for the day. As go banks and biotechs, so goes the market. But the semiconductors are important as well, so we'll keep an eye on that. Google was up for quite a bit today, ended up closing flat, up literally down a quarter after this gap up. It's held the gap pretty well considering how big that gap is. Apple gapped down on the earnings and then came back up, closed down 550. We had the VIX down another 10 cents. Boy, I can't imagine getting a close on the VIX under 12. That happens so infrequently historically. It'd be kind of crazy to see that. Crude oil back under 50, 49.20 for the close. Should be good for my road trip out to California this weekend. Very excited about that. We have gold down 165, and that's breaking the lows that were set 2 days ago. So this breakdown in gold is real. And the trend, 10-day trend closed at 1.01, that's the 10-day moving average. The last print today was 0.97, so nothing very telling about that. The advanced decline ratio, this is amusing. Advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ today was only negative 135. So even though we're down so much, that's the best advanced decline ratio we've seen all week. Just barely a few stocks, more stocks negative than positive. Interesting how that works. Volume was heavy in Apple and some of the others, so 1.85 or so billion shares. That's the best volume of the week so far. Second best volume day of July. And again, don't forget, August, typically a great trading month. It'll be interesting to see what we get out of this August. Not because it has a lot of volume, typically it doesn't, but things just tend to work well in August. So it won't work well if we're stuck in narrow ranges, but if any movement at all, August tends to be good. So we'll be ready for that. All right, let's take a look at the 5-minute candles on the futures. You can see here we got the gap down in the morning, came up, almost filled the gap, but missed it by a couple points. And that was the range for the session, essentially. NASDAQ futures, on the other hand, obviously a bigger gap, never came back up into the prior day's range, never got anywhere near the gap fill. And again, the whole range was established in the first half hour of the day. We closed right on the VWAP. We are still continuing to wait, obviously, for the last chunk of earnings. There were a lot today, Wednesday after the bell. Thursday is the biggest single day of earnings, so that will wrap up core earnings season for us. Tomorrow, Thursday, we do have initial and continuing jobless claims an hour before the bell. Those are the weekly numbers. Leading indicators 30 minutes in, and then natty gas. Friday is an interesting one because you're past all the core earnings. You're going to have a gap based on whatever stocks report Thursday after the bell and what their findings were You've only got one data point. That's new home sales 30 minutes in, and of course it is a Friday, which in the summer especially tends to mean people head out early. Everybody takes different vacation weekends and whatnot. So hopefully we can get some action tomorrow. Today was actually a great trading day. We had some nice winners in Baidu and IBM. Unfortunately, our top pick, MNST, just barely gapped over the trigger, and then it kept running. If that had been a clean trigger, we would have really done well with that and had a couple of nice daily chart triggers this week, which is what we like to see. Next week, just to gear you up, I am on the road for part of the week, but next week is the last week of July. So the Friday is the last trading day of the month. So you're going to get statement prints. You're going to get the end of month hangover. And a good thing it's on a Friday. So it kind of combines the wasted Friday and the wasted end of month. But hopefully we will get some decent trading action in the middle of the week now that we're beyond earnings. We do have a Fed meeting next week, a 2-day Fed meeting. So we'll have the rate announcement on Wednesday. And the big news, of course, Thursday will be the first look at gross domestic product for the second quarter. That's always important. But we'll be past core earnings season and back to a more normal, less gappy, less rumor-driven environment. We will be in the trading lab as usual tomorrow and Friday, trying to help you make some money. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you have not taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. And we will help you as much as we can. Have a good trading day.